Smugglers are a different breed of wicked smart. Their stories are the stuff of legends, so eventful that they've had action-packed movies made about them. They've moved tons of contraband around the world, changed governments, ran entire cartels, and outsmart every enemy who opposed them. From notorious kingpins to the wealthiest criminals in history, here are the top 10 most smartest smugglers. Number 10. Joaquin Guzman Loera. Upon first glance, you would never guess this man is the kingpin of the Sinaloa cartel, the cartel that's responsible for smuggling the largest percentage of drugs into the U.S. every year. You name it, they smuggled it. Cocaine, heroin, marijuana, methamphetamines, and many other drugs. The evil genius behind the operations? Joaquin Guzman Loera, also known as El Chapo. His smuggling skills are so legendary that he was able to smuggle himself out of prison twice. One time it involved bribing 78 people and paying over $2 million, and the other had him escaping through an underground tunnel with a motorized cycle. Number 9. Griselda Blanco. You've heard about the Godfather. Well, meet the Godmother, real name Griselda Blanco. Up until she died in 2012, she was one of the most brutal kingpins of all time, or should we say queenpins. How did she break into the smuggling world, you might ask? Blanco made a name for herself by developing bras and girdles that helped people hide smuggled cocaine. Eventually, she became a key figure in the Medellin cartel before getting arrested. Not that getting arrested stopped her criminal mischief. Number 8. Giacomo Medici. Giacomo Medici is one of the world's most famous smugglers, but his form of smuggling is a little different. He doesn't deal in drugs, he deals in antiquities and art. In fact, before his conviction in 2004, he had one of the largest and most sophisticated antiquity networks in the world, responsible for illegally digging up and spiriting away thousands of top-draw pieces and passing them on to the most elite end of the international art market. Among the pieces he stole was a set of Etruscan dinner plates that were valued at a staggering $2 million. He also acquired a one-of-a-kind Attic red figure wine vessel from the late 6th century BCE called Sarpedon Crater, signed by none other than Euphorus, one of the world's most famous ancient ceramic artists. Number 7. Gilberto and Miguel Rodriguez Arejela. Gilberto and his brother Miguel made their marks in the history books by developing one of the most sophisticated global smuggling enterprises of all time. They are one of the most creative smugglers in history. They would hide cocaine in the most elaborate ways ever and in legitimate shipments. During the 1990s, they were able to smuggle at least 200 tons of drugs into the U.S., about 80% of the country's supply at the time, and they did it by hiding cocaine in items such as coffee packages and frozen vegetables. Number 6. Carlos Loera. If you're looking for the man who revolutionized cocaine smuggling in the 1970s, then Carlos Loera is your guy. This man went as far as buying an entire island in the Bahamas to run his operation. The island was called Norman's Key, and it was just 211 miles off the Florida coast. This Colombian-German smuggler trafficked immeasurable amounts of cocaine. If you lived in the U.S. at the time of the peak of his legendary career, 4 out of every 5 bags of cocaine were his. Number 5. Kon Sawa. Meet the Opium King. Kon Sawa was a force to be reckoned with. At the height of his power, which was during the 1980s, he was described as the worst enemy the world has. The worst enemy the world has ever had or not, Kon Sawa was crazy smart. He ran his massive opium operation in the Golden Triangle, the area where the borders of Thailand, Laos, and Myanmar meet. Kon Sawa was able to smuggle his heroin wherever he desired because the government knew about his operation but did nothing about it. Even years later, the DEA confessed that his heroin was 90% pure and probably the best in the business that the world has ever seen. At one point, his personal army, which was better armed than the Burmese military, supplied a quarter of the world's heroin. Number 4. Frank Lucas. Denzel Washington may bring Frank Lucas's story to the screen in the movie American Gangster, but the real Frank Lucas may have led an even wilder life. His elaborate way of smuggling drugs? He did it by hiding them inside false bottoms of coffins carrying deceased servicemen. He got his supply directly from the Golden Triangle, aided by his international drug smuggling connections. Known as an eccentric man, he would come down and sell his product on the streets by himself. Number 3. George Hyung. George Hyung designed a smuggling operation that brought in over $60 million a day. He was part of the notorious Medallion Cartel, one of the most ruthless Colombian drug trafficking organizations. Hyung had a relatively easy method. He had his girlfriend, a stewardess, hide drugs in her suitcases. He would buy the cannabis in California and sell it in New England. He eventually expanded to an international basis, but he got caught and spent nearly 20 years in prison. The last anyone's heard of him is in 2017, when he was released from a U.S. halfway house at the age of 75. Number 2. Nikki Barnes. In the late 70s, Nikki Barnes was a name you whispered in fear of catching his attention. Why? He was only one of the most protected crime bosses in New York City. He dominated the Harlem area to the point that he earned the nickname Mr. Untouchable. Barnes was so powerful that he formed his very own African-American syndicate to control the heroin trade. He then used those profits to buy real estate and other assets, making it easier to wash the money. When Barnes was alive, he was part of the United States Federal Witness Protection Program. Number 1. Pablo Escobar. We've mentioned the Medallion Cartel several times now, but have you ever wondered who founded it in the first place? You're looking at the king of cocaine, the wealthiest criminal in history, and the smartest smuggler to ever move drugs. This Colombian drug lord is responsible for transporting shipments of 70 to 80 tons of cocaine into the U.S. on a monthly basis. He's responsible for making Colombia the murder capital of the world. At one point, he was so rich that he didn't know what to do with all his money. Every year, around $2.1 billion of his fortune was written off because it was either eaten by rats or destroyed by natural elements. Before his death, he accumulated a fortune of over $30 billion. Have you ever heard of a smuggler that is smarter than the ones mentioned above? Well, let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you want to see more videos just like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on those notifications. Thanks for watching.